This is a really good question. If you have ever struggled with binge eating or are currently struggling with binge eating, you know how frustrating living in this cycle is. Binge eating is essentially eating large quantities of food within a short period of time, and during the binge you may feel a complete loss of control or a dissociation from your body, and you would typically eat to or past the point of discomfort. The impulse to binge feels next to impossible to resist, and there are deep feelings of guilt and shame typically following a binge. So if this sounds like you, here are 3 things that you can do today to help break this cycle and get out of this absolute living hell. The number 1 thing you can do for yourself is get your body out of a caloric deficit if you are in one. When you are in a caloric deficit for a long period of time, eventually the survival part of your brain is going to respond with its biological response that you need to eat. It's going to feel like this impossible urge to resist, to eat food, large quantities of food, and this is what an impulse to binge is. Okay, number 2 is to stop restricting the types of food that you eat in your diet. So even if you're getting in enough calories, but you're still restricting certain types of foods like carbs or sugars or fats, there's still going to be this similar biological mechanism to binge on those foods because they're restricted from your diet. The more you don't let yourself have that thing, the more your brain is going to fixate on it and want it. So unless you're allergic to something, drop your food rules. Let yourself eat the things that you want to eat. I know this seems so backwards and that you think that you need to cut certain foods out of your life so that you don't binge on them and that you don't overdo it, but it's really the opposite. I promise the more that you let yourself have those foods, the less you're going to want them because you know that you can have them at any time. Okay, so once you have done those first 2 steps, which by the way can take some time, so give yourself grace and patience and compassion. It can be scary to eat foods that you have deemed as bad for so long. But once you have done those first 2 steps, then it really just takes practicing not acting on the impulse to binge. So given that you have already done number 1 and 2, if the impulse to binge comes up again, the best thing that you can do is try to distract yourself from acting on that impulse and just creating time and space between you and that impulse to binge. You can distract yourself with just about anything that is going to keep you entertained and stimulate your brain long enough to give you that time and space. I hope this helps, and follow for more.